Cash deals are the worst deals. They'll offer you the least amount of protection. I've had clients come up to me with $3 million builds. The difference is they want to do things their way. Everybody's not your client. I love this. I love what we're doing. It'll change my whole lineage. Quick overview, Southeastern General Contractors in business 21 years now. So got started doing custom homes. Design build is being our bread and butter for many years. Never got into the spec home deal much. I tried it in 2008. Learned a hard lesson, the extreme highs and the extreme lows, and they take, unfortunately, a lot of us out. So if you guys been in real estate for a long time, you've seen the trend, you know, and there's ups and downs. So my goal has always been to try to balance that out and not fall victim to the same things that most of us builders fall victim to. We start out, if we do great, we make money, and then we go invest in land, and then we start building subdivisions, and we'll go to 2 to 4 houses, then 6 to 8, and 10 to 20, and before you know it, it might be up to 50 or 100. And then the market changes, and you're left sitting on a lot of inventory that don't sell. You try to unload them, and if you can't, you get rid of them, and then you have to go belly up and bust. It's typically that cycle. My approach has been a little bit different. I tried it again. Like I said, I failed at it in 2008 when the market happened. Luckily, I only had a few homes, and I got rid of them and was able to kind of regroup. So I'm like, let me stick with the custom homes, and I did that up until about 7 years ago when I started pivoting. Gotten more into commercial developments, and now we're doing a lot of government contracting work. We still do the custom homes here and there, but as you'll see, there's things that we do that are a lot different from a lot of other builders. It's not the norm. For a lot of people, it's probably going to raise your eyebrows a bit, but people actually agree to do that. All right, so pleasure to meet you guys. I'm gonna kind of sit and go through. I'm gonna share a screen onto this screen, and so this is actually a software that we're in the process of developing. It's called Contractor Buddy. I'm set out to solve what I see as a major problem within the construction industry and with a lot of businesses in general. So essentially what this is that in anything we do, there's typically SOPs, standard operating procedures. Construction is no different. Custom home building is no different. How many of you guys have built or worked with builders that's built custom homes? 2? How was the experience?
We actively work with that builder still, and the agent on the other side can have a great influence on the experience, but overall it's been a good one.
So I'll talk about the pre-construction phase starting out, and what you see there in order is the process that we follow in sequential order. Starting out with the budgeting and design, site selection, the allowances, specifications, and bank approval. We got project kickoff with clients, with subs and vendors, then permits, then what we call project verification, then we start the scheduling, and then we pre-order materials and fixtures. Most people, you guys are, you're somewhat in the industry of knowing the building process, but most people I find are surprised when I show them all the things that has to happen before we actually start building. Now, I know you guys have heard of all the horror stories that you typically hear of when building custom homes. And I know from my experience that I've done it every way possible. I've let clients lead me, they come in and some of them are aggressive, some of them I've had a few where money's not a problem. I thought that was going to be a blessing whenever I found clients like that, and it's not a blessing at all. So I did this build business any way and every way possible. This is what I'm going to show you is the only way that I'll do it now, following what you're going to see. I will not do a job. I've had clients come up to me with $3 million builds in this market, which I thought I'd never see. But there's people that are building, and the difference is they want to do things their way. And what I've learned to do is I had to learn to find out what worked for us, what our goals were, what our mission statement is, and all of that. And with the custom homes, I love it because it's one of the best teachers that there is. I don't get the same experience doing government jobs as I do with commercial, and plus I had to get really great at so many different things in order to even survive in custom homes. So this software, we're developing it to mainly enable, it's going to solve another problem that we have in the industry too, which is the skilled trades. You know, there's a real shortage of skilled trades, and one of the things that's always blown my mind is that I've never seen a subcontractor or a vendor go to a job site ever in 21 years. Never seen it happen. So somebody can use this as a cheat sheet if they're watching. I've never seen anybody with a checklist ever on a job site. No electrician, no plumber, let alone having standard operating procedures. So what we've decided to do, we've had to basically do the legwork for them because their failure is our failure. We're only as good as our weakest link. So everything that we do has a systemized process, a SOP. Even though we're not electricians, we're not plumbers, we essentially manage the job sites, we're responsible for it, but we have to go in and make sure that the plumbers are putting pressure tests after each step of their process. Make sure that it holds pressure. That's not a standard thing, right? We just kind of wing it in the industry. It was one of the things I've noticed in the construction industry. Everybody's just used to winging it. And so I'm going to use this as an example. You see under permits, I got a section for training, execution, and then mastery. I'm going to just focus on the execution part. The execution part is what our internal team will use to actually do said task. Now, this is a lot of work. I started out in the beginning with the mind map. Who here are familiar with the mind mapping software? You familiar with it? So just to give you an idea, let me show you what that looks like. First off, in-house. I mean, it's got to solve our problem first. If it solves our problem, and then yeah, more than likely that'll be the next thing that we'll probably end up doing.
It would be absolutely epic and useful when you do roll it out for others.
Thank you.
Y'all work typically with the same subcontractors and, professional electricians?
We try to, because it's a relationship business.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I get asked a lot is that, how is the market affecting our business? Because we do see an uptick in subcontractors calling looking for work, but we primarily try to stick with folks that we've already got a relationship with that knows us. And let me show you guys this. So this is what I started out with initially when I decided to start taking the business seriously. Is I started documenting our whole entire process from start to finish. And what you see over here is the result of starting out with this. So I'll start out with the construction phase here. Now, what you see there is basically a layout of everything that goes on in the construction process. I tried training my team with this, and it just was so overwhelming for most people. I used to look at people when I would try to explain them the custom home build process, and I can well, it's simple, you just got to clear your land, then you get your utilities, and then I just start vomiting out all these things to do, and my head is so simple, but then I see and read the people's response, and they're like,
Their eyes glaze over.
it's crazy, and I'm like, so to me it was so simple, and I'm like, well, you know what, let me make this super simple for everybody. Let me just put it in a format that people can understand, and this is what it started from. But what I'll show you is something as simple as what you think would be, we got client interview, preliminary design process. And what you'll start noticing, each one of these branches out to several other things. And something as simple as onboarding a client has to have so many different things going on, and so many T's you have to cross and I's you have to dot. And so quickly I learned why this business is one of the ones that people avoid as far as builders. Most builders don't want to touch a custom home. Besides the nuances of dealing with people's emotions in this business, even when you're right, you're wrong. And I am one of the best, and this isn't coming from a stance of arrogance, but 21 years and being super meticulous about every detail to the point to where everything is in here, down to the length of the finish nails that goes into the baseboard to help ensure that you never puncture a water line, because most trim carpenters, they use 1 3/4 finish nails, which is at some point in time is going to hit the water line in the exterior walls. Well, if you only use 1 1/4 finish nails, you'll never have to worry about that, because your nails isn't long enough in a 2x6 exterior wall to puncture a water line. So if you just implement that one thing and make that your standard, you'll never have to deal with that problem as a builder. Or if you're representing a builder, you could mention that to them if they're not using it. But all of that type of thought process is included at the right stage in the build process. So you guys are probably involved with the allowances, right? Or have some type of input on that, or maybe some influence. So this process here, where we're talking about the allowance process, you see where it says list of allowances? These are the typical list of allowances that we would give the clients the option to use as an allowance if they don't want to go through the process initially of speccing out everything. But this is at the high level overview, where you would spec out windows, window allowances, door allowances, fireplace allowances, garage doors, light fixtures. The list pretty much can go on and on and on. This is how we establish a budget up front. A lot of builders, what we'll do is we'll go through a design process and get finished with a set of plans. We'll agree on a number. We'll give them a timeline to have these selections made before we get the framing done. And then what happens? Well, hey, I need you to go. I got the guys starting next week. You were supposed to get those selections done last week, and you still don't have them. I'm gonna have to put the brakes on the construction process if we don't get those windows and doors, because they're 2 months out, and we're literally 3 weeks away before we need them. Well, I can't take off work. I got to put in time off for work, and plus I can't make the decision. My husband's got to be with me, and we got to do it together. And then the nightmare starts happening, and it goes downhill from there. So what we've learned to do is we've learned to build out a process to where we identified every step in the build process. And I'm just going to overwhelm you guys for a bit here, just so you can actually see what all happens. Every time you go through a build process, all of this stuff's being done. You're just not really aware of all the decisions that has to be made. And I'll just stop there, but you get the point, right? There's over 30,000 components, items, decisions, choices that has to be made. And earlier when I said the thing about this business is that even when you're right, you're still wrong. One of the things that we do is that every time we meet with a potential client, we record our meetings. There's a 360-degree camera that's in the middle of the table. We let everybody know that all meetings are recorded. If we're going to work together, no matter if it's here on the job site, we have in our contracts to where we record everything. Every phone call that we have is through CallRail. CallRail.com is the software that we use for that. It monitors all our calls, has AI, records the calls. I can go ask for a summary, recall a conversation we had. Even on the job sites, when we're doing a job now, we're getting ready to start, and we're assessing the land. We record using Otter.AI, where we record all of our meetings. And custom homes, like I said, even when you're right, you're wrong. You can literally cross every T, dot every I, and if you're not careful, there's still going to be a discrepancy. Well, I thought. Well, you said. Well, you're the builder, you should have known. All those, and so I've learned to include all that on the front end when I'm onboarding clients, documenting everything. And so now the clients that we do take on, which is it's only a handful. We don't do a lot of custom homes, mainly because most people is not going to, unfortunately, some people when they see that you're that on point, there's not much wiggle room. And then you learn something that we all learn in business. Everybody's not your client. Some people only want to do business with people that they know that Ruben ain't completely buttoned up, or he's new. He ain't learned these lessons yet. And let me do the talking. I've been through all of that, and it's a shame. Our goal's always been to be one of the best to do designing and building in the area, and with having a good heart and compassion for folks, I've lost money a lot of times to try to keep people happy or not to see them sad when building, or the wives crying because the countertops that they picked out, even though it was the same make, model, spec, something as simple as the grain pattern, going left to right on the countertops versus front to back. Tears start flowing. This isn't what I wanted, ma'am. This is exactly what we picked out. Yeah, but why is it going this way? I'm like, so, all that. Who am I the only one that's heard like of this types of stuff? Has anybody been through any of this yet?
We just had the issue with somebody saying that he could do a custom home build that's probably gonna be about $200 a square foot.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that he was quoting them at $150 a square foot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good luck finding that anywhere.
Well, and we get that a lot. We get a lot of phone calls with people saying that, hey, such and such builder is building it. And I'm like, hey, that's great. They probably got, 50 of those same floor plans, and they're building in volume, and they don't need to make 50 grand on a deal. Like for me, I got to have higher margins. I'm not doing all it, plus all the energy and resources. So I've learned to target a very specific customer, a very specific person that our ideal client typically has already built a home before, they've bought a home before, and they will come to someone like us when they know this is their last home, or it's part of their legacy. They're wanting to leave their children. They want the home built right with love and care, and they can justify paying the higher premium that they're going to pay with us versus just going and buying a house. And I would say out of every 20 people that's going to build that we talk to, either build or buy, 2 of them will be the type of folks that we would end up building for. So they typically will have at least 100 grand liquid cash, or that they can put towards the deal. They typically will buy the land outright, not put it as part of the build. And our build prices is ranging from $240 to $280 a square foot. And those things alone kind of put most people out of the possibility of accomplishing that, So, and we understand that. We still try to help folks, even if we're not the right fit for them. And I've learned even with that though, you can't refer folks. We've referred, like we get a lot of renovation calls. We don't do renovations. I thought custom homes was a challenge. Renovations, with people living in their home too, there's like no way. I tried it 4 or 5 times. I ended up having to give the people all their money back because there's no way. I'm like, well, I like a challenge. I think me and Ruben's got that in common. I'm like, you know what? I always have to have a challenge. Let me see if I can figure this out. Can't figure human emotions out. You can't control them. So I'm like, okay, that didn't work. Let me not do that again. And so we just refer that work out to other folks. And
you dip a little bit more in the commercial and the government side.
Yeah.
Much less.
Yeah, because I like a challenge, and I like, doing things that are hard. I like doing hard things. But after so many years of trying it and going through a process like what I'm about to show you, there's nothing more that you can do. Yeah. If it's recorded that we've agreed that, hey, this is what we're going to do, and here's the make and model number of the furniture that we're going to supply, and I get it there, and we assemble it, and we install it, and you walk in, or you didn't communicate with your wife, and your wife had told you, she didn't like this color, she wanted the almond, but somehow it's the builder's fault. And then our reputation's at stake, because either it don't matter what the issue is, they're not happy. And then you know how it is in these types of markets. You hear one side of the story, and then that builder, well, was that really the case? So what I've had to do in being an entrepreneur, being a builder, I thought I was getting into the construction business when I first got started, and realized that, nope. I'm a marriage counselor, I'm a psychologist, I'm all these different things, forensic scientist, kind of litigation expert to keep from having to go to court. And in the software, you'll see there's a placeholder here for videos. And
before you go there, does anybody have any questions of some of the stuff that you talked about? Any concerns, any comments?
I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm losing my voice, sorry. Do you not have, and this is like, I'm doing comparisons here, because
Mhm.
from my personal experience of what you're describing, do you put agents between you and your clients as a buffer, and like, kind of have it, not only understood, but kind of like contracted that they can only talk to the agent, or are you
We've-
personally handling these people?
Most of the times people come to us where they already have their own land. I would say at least 70% of the time that's not the case, but we have worked when they do work with an agent, then that helps out quite a bit. But it depends on the agent, you know what I mean? Because I have worked with the agent to where they create more problems.
Yes.
Some people, you know, that's just human nature. We all have this tendency until we get seasoned. Like, some people feel like they need to, in order to lift themselves up, they got to push somebody else down, or they got to create a problem that's not a problem. So I was working with one real estate agent, very seasoned though, been in the business 20, 30 years, and knew our reputation, you know, pretty well. And I had to have a conversation. We were on a job site. We were in Grace Creek on a build, and it was just sowing doubt in the client's mind. So some feedback I'll give you, especially for you folks that are newer. You work with people that you trust. You know what I mean? If you can, you know. But I had a struggle working with the real estate agent at the time, because it was, I noticed that it was like, and I actually pulled the real estate agent to the side, even if, say if it was Ruben, like, dude, what are we doing? Well, man, I'm protecting my client. And I'm like,
From who?
first of all, like, I'm one of the best, I'm here myself. Most builders, they don't go to their jobs. You guys know that. Like, there's nobody's going to care more or go above and beyond like me. And we're literally in the middle of the process, in the middle of the operating room, where that hasn't even begun to take place yet. Why are you sowing seeds of doubt? And if anything goes wrong, I'll make it right. If anything, let your clients know that they're in the best hands. If there is a problem, you're working with the builder that will make it right. Don't take my word for it. Go look them up. Go look at the reviews. Go talk to people they've built for. Tell them that they can go on vacation. They ain't got nothing to worry about. And even if they do, it'll be made right. That's all people want to hear anyway.
Yeah.
They know we're going to have problems. And I tell people that when I work with them, like, listen, I'm one of the best that does it, but when you're building custom, or even not custom, commercial buildings or anything we do, there is going to be problems. We're professional problem solvers. But the idea is, if you're going to pay me or pay us for our job, you should relax. You should know that, hey, I've got an insurance, I've got a buffer. That's what I'm paying these folks for. And then you hold us accountable. I said, because it should give everyone more comfort knowing that everything's documented. I said, because it works in your favor and it works in mine.
Yeah.
If you're on a job site and we go to the home and there's supposed to be a pop filler, I use a pop filler all the time, because that one gets, that was a real thing. Lady came in, we were building for her. Where's my pop filler? Hold on, let me. The blueprints don't show a pop filler. Oh no, yes, they're supposed, I remember specifically talking about a pop filler, and it was supposed, well man, we reviewed the plans through 4 different revisions over the course of a month and a half, going through the designs. You signed it, I signed it, husband signed it, designer signed it, went through, made all the plumbing selections. There was not even a pop filler make and model that was selected in the design, in the selection process. So when did we decide to put a pop filler in there? And then of course, you know where it went off the rails pretty quickly. But I said, well, hey, I tell you what, yeah, just like that. I said, well, hey, listen, like, the great thing about how we do things, everything was recorded. And I will personally go take the time and look through there, any one of our conversations, even though our contract says that, you know, if it's not in the contract, it's not included. But if me or my team acknowledge that, I will make it happen.
Smart.
And I said, you can even join me. I said, because everything's recorded. Well, which meeting was it? It was the meeting where we were talking about, I think it was, I was like, well, let's go sit down. We sat down and looked through it, pulled it up. There's no mention of a pop filler. And the good thing about this is that it at least corrects when it starts going off the rails. It's like, well, hey, here's the meeting, it's no mention of that. But here's the deal, we can include it. It's just going to cost $250, $500, and it's going to add 2 weeks of delay to the timeline. But just know, these 2 weeks is going to turn into a month when you scale it out over 7 or 8 months, and then your interest payments are going to be higher at the end of the build, so you might be paying another $2,000, $2,500, $3,000. Is this pot filler that important? Exactly. Yes, it's that important.
The answer's always
Yeah, yeah.
It's still your fault.
And so, there is a lot of challenges, but what I've found is that communication, documentation, expectation management, and eliminating the surprises is key to building and going through a process. And I've actually experienced this, and we have developed a process in the last 4 builds that we've built. The process I'm going to quickly cover with you up next. Most people won't agree to it, but it guarantees a successful project, a happy client before, during, and after. And we're doing the impossible for the clients that we choose to work for. And what that looks like is working with the ideal clients. They typically, they have about $100K in liquid cash. They purchased their own land. They agree with our process is the main thing. So let me kind of outline that. So what exactly is the process that we follow besides going this step-by-step order of operations here? And
Will you always do custom? I know you're.
yeah, I mean, I'll hand cherry pick them.
Right.
Yeah, like right now, we did one last year and I'm doing one this year. The one I did last year was very strategic. My position on the government contracting side, it was he's a retired contracting officer with 20 years of experience, and of course I'm greener in that area. I don't know the submittal process and learning some of the stuff, and so he was needing a custom home built, needed someone he could trust, and I needed someone that can coach me and making sure I dot my I's and cross my T's with government contracts, and there was no conflict of interest. And so I got a mentor for life now on speed dial. Anytime I'm doing a government project that I'm not feeling sure about, and he looks over it and kind of coaches me and guiding me on what to do and how to do it. And it works out. So I'm looking for things like that. We're doing a one this year, but it's mainly because the guy, he's an ideal fit. And we now have it laid out. Well, we know exactly what an ideal fit looks for. So we literally go check box by check box. How many boxes do this individual check? And if you check all of them, then all right, let's do it. But again, I mentioned earlier, out of 20 people I talked to, maybe only 2 checks the box, and out of those 2, 1 probably be the one that we'll end up doing a custom home with. So an ideal client for us purchases their land separate from their build cost. They have $100K plus in liquid cash to contribute towards the project. They agree to our design build process, which consists of, first and foremost, no matter what, and I tell the clients this, no matter what a builder, us or anybody else tells you that a custom home is going to cost to build, automatically add 10%. Have a 10% buffer in cash, not relying on a bank to approve you for more funds. You need to have that amount of money on reserve, and you need to count on it costing you that. The next question I will typically get asked, well, what if we don't use it? We're always going to use it. Cost of inflation year over year increases. The government says it increases 3 to 4%, but we all know that's a lie. Yeah. Like, just go look at the groceries, what you were spending last year versus now.
Is that above the 10% that the lender already adds in? Or do you know?
No, it won't be above. If we give a contract price, say of $600K for a home, and then the bank, I guess the banks are catching on to that. So it won't be above theirs. It's just whatever I do a takeoff, and I say, well, hey, it's going to cost $600K for.
It scared me.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So because the banks, I never saw banks do that,
Yours does, yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So.
They do like a mandatory, they factor in a percentage above the actual project agreed cost, and they call it the buffer. So.
Yeah. Yep. And so we're essentially just doing that, and then we take it a step further, because people can show that they've got the money, but they don't have the money when it comes time to needing it, especially if it's in a checking account. They'll spend it. So what we do is we talk about this up front, and we say, hey, if you got your 10%, we need that up front. That's one of the first things. Well, wait a minute, why am I paying you that up front? And so again, there's all these different layers that's the reason why we're not doing a whole bunch of them. 10% contingency. Then we do scheduled site visits only. No drop-ins on a daily basis every evening.
You almost see the sausage is
No, but that right there above everything else is always the deal breaker.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Raphael? You're telling me, wait a minute, this is my property. I bought it, I purchased it. I'm going to go to it whenever I want to. I'm going to go twice a day, matter of fact.
Now that you said
Yeah.
My family coming in and wants to see it.
Yes. And you know what? And I'm like, hey, I am 100% with you. I would probably be just like that if I didn't know what I know in the lane that I'm in. And that's great. That just means I'm not the builder for you. And that's okay. There's other builders. I can make a phone call for you. A lot of other builders, matter of fact, I don't think any other builder really enforces that. But for me and my family, I made a promise to my wife, to my kids, to my team, I'm not living like that. You know what kind of hell that is?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm doing it 10, 12 at a time. I did that. I was building 10 or 12 custom homes at a time, and my God. Like, people go through that once in their lifetime, and you hear the horror stories. But nobody hears about the builder that's doing it 10 and 12 at a time. It took what I was passionate about and made me hate it.
Yeah.
And I said, I'd never do that again, even if I had to go broke. I asked my wife, I said, if we don't get any jobs, if I can't sell this and make this make sense, and we ain't got no work coming in, hey, all right. And so I enforced it, and I was told it was impossible. No, I would not have no work. It was going to crush my business. But we enforced it, and for the right people, the last 4 or 5 bills that we've done, everybody's followed this, and we made what the industry says is impossible. We made it possible. These folks are going to their home happy, smiling, energetic, and walking through the home. And yeah, we did find issues. We did find things like the pot filler. However, we made it right, and then when they left, instead of being mad, instead of being angry or upset or frustrated, they were leaving smiling and happy. And then when they came back to the next site visit, the pot filler was added, the backsplash was installed exactly the way that they wanted it, and everything was great. They had the 10% buffer. There was already a buffer built into the numbers that could help offset some of this, so you don't have to necessarily argue or feud or fuss about the money because you were smart. You built a buffer on the front, and most of this stuff is so stressful because people don't have these conversations up front, and they go in on a price and thinking that price is fixed. I want a fixed contract. Is anything really ever fixed? Seriously? It's going to be a negotiation, and typically the builder, if he cares about his reputation, he'll take the loss or he'll take the L's, or sometimes you guys, if you've been in it for a while, you know what happens. Well, I'll chip in $1,000. I'll chip in just to save the deal or just to try to keep peace. But most people they won't agree to that. They're going to go to their job site when they want to, and this is one of the things that confuses me the most as I've done this so many years, is like, why do people have the need to want to do that? Especially if you've hired someone you can trust. And the real answer to that is, well, you don't trust them. And rightfully so, by the way, because of the industry, right? When I mentioned in the beginning, I felt like that I've been fighting against the whole industry since I've got started, and that's primarily what it is. Because at least with us, they don't have to worry about that, but you can't really, anybody can say that, right? Like, of course he's going to say that. And nobody really knows that until you actually commit. But out of every market, there is a niche market with the 4 or 5 that we've done that for most recently, and it's a proven process. It works almost flawlessly. Change orders is the next thing. We all know that's the other thing that wreaks havoc when building homes, right, is change orders. I typically will ask a client, hey, how do you want your build to go, Ruben? I want my build to go smooth, I want it to go easy, I want my wife to be happy, and da-da-da, and I want it da-da. I'm like, well, what do you think is the one thing that causes that to go off the rails? Who do you think's in control of that? Do you think I am or you? Well, you're the builder, you are. Let me challenge that perspective. You're in control, because once we set a set of selections, it shouldn't change. The only way this is going to go off rails is if we go in and we start executing on installing countertops or flooring, and then you're able to go to the job site every day, and me as the builder or my superintendent, we haven't even gotten there yet. You stop by there on the way to work at 6:30 and see the flooring that's been delivered, and you happen to open up the box and it's like, I don't like that. And now you want us to return it, and now we got to go down the whole path of where we're doing a change order and rescheduling the subs. They've got us locked in for 2 weeks, and if we reschedule them, they're going to have to reschedule it for 2 months, and then they got 5 people on the job site that we're going to have to pay. Who's paying for this? right? And so this whole idea about change orders, we learned to implement what we call a change order consideration fee. This is another thing that causes people, what do you mean? So you're saying you're going to charge me to even consider doing a change order on my own home? Dude, get out of here. Like, you know, so that's another, like I said, most people don't make it through this checklist. But the way I explain that is I'm like, Ruben, think about it for a second. You said you wanted to have what type of project happen? How do you want your project to go? Smooth, easy. Wife happy, right? So how am I going to do that when the notion of wanting to do changes are going to be at every twist and turn? And you know what comes with the changes, right? No matter how well we want it to go, it's going to be confusion, it's going to be chaos, we're going to start feuding or not seeing eye to eye, and then that's the precursor to having a bad experience. But we know this. Right now we're just talking. We haven't even signed a contract, right? So you're knowing what you're getting into ahead of time, and even if nothing else, you're going to head off those challenges. And if you work with us, you won't have those challenges. But most people would rather go work with the builder or with a team that doesn't have these processes and then end up with the very thing that they said they didn't want to have happen because they don't want to follow a process that, you know, that they're not in control of. And that's another thing that a lot of they don't really understand or don't call it out for what it is the control. You know, and how many of us are going to go to the doctor or a surgeon and we control their process? Right? There's a reason why, and I use that analogy with the surgeons, like there's a reason why they don't let us go to the operating room while they're operating on our loved ones. Ruben, if they have your wife back there, you're going to stay in the waiting room, brother. They're not going to let you even in the window peeking while they're doing what they're doing. They're going to close it, you know, because you're a distraction, you know, and you don't know what they're doing. They could be using a Makita skill saw with a construction blade if they happen to do open heart surgery. You know what I mean? Like you're having to trust them. Blindly. We get on the airplane, and I'm like, we don't know who's driving that airplane. We trust them. And it's in the industry, it's a lot of overlap, but we want to go get in the cockpit. We want to actually sit in the cockpit and watch them move the controls while we're flying to make sure that we're going to land safely. So I just learned we don't want that kind of problems, and we don't want that kind of stress.
I know you got more on your list. Does anybody have questions or concerns? Hey, what's up? Or anything that they want to dive into? Because we got about less than 15 minutes. So I want to make sure that you guys also get your questions.
So out of that list, is there anything you want to ask questions about?
So far? What are y'all getting out of this so far?
Well, the 10% that you're talking about, not 10%. Yeah, there's the 10% upfront, right?
Buffer, yep.
Well, not the buffer, the upfront fees, like straight up before you even start designing. That's what you ask them.
We'll get a deposit.
The deposit,
Yep.
so that covers the architect, like, all that good stuff. And then
So-
back into the,
So here's the way we do that. So let's just say you're the client, right? You and your wife, your partner, or whatnot. I will say, hey, you're wanting to build 3,000 square foot. We're between 240 to 280. Do the math. At 240, at 3,000 square foot, it's this number. Then you do it at 280, is that number. There's your delta. There's your range. The plans are going to cost $2 a square foot. That's going to get added to that. As you're building, typically, as we're designing, typically what happens, you're going to ask about swimming pools, basketball court, mother-in-law, in-law suite. Those are going to be potential add-ons that we're going to struggle with if we're relying on an appraisal to comp it, because they're going to give you $10,000 for that swimming pool and it's going to cost us 40 or 50. Do you have the funds or the liquid cash to be able to offset that? That's where the 100K comes in. So normally that 100K comes in, well, yeah, I've got money to the side, and well, what does that look like? And it requires us to be really honest with one another. So I tell people up front, like, listen, this is going to be a marriage and a relationship. I need you to be very honest with me. It ain't one of those deals where if I tell you my budget, you're going to go to over my, you're in control of that. Like, I am not in control of that. I'm going to let you know what the costs are, and I'm going to list out the pool, the detached garage, the basketball court, and here's the numbers with it. You do a a la carte. You pick and choose which one you want, and then once we add those numbers up, I'll add another 10% buffer on top of that, and that'll be our total number that we go with. But if we're good to go and we want to engage in a design build agreement, I'm going to charge, $10,000 deposit, non-refundable deposit, $20,000 non-refundable deposit that will be deducted from that total price that we end up settling on. And so it's really, if someone's wanting something so locked in stone, well, I just need a price. I can't work with you. Like you don't, I mean, like you just don't work like that. And if you do, somebody's going to lose. And normally, in my case, it's me, because I'm eating it, because you know I value my reputation over anything. So, and there's been a lot of jobs where I've had to learn this the hard way, and I didn't do things like this and get in the middle of it and just seeing we're not aligned at all. Instead of you leaving mad, I want you to leave feeling like you got over on me. In all honesty,
All it takes is one.
one. You one person out there going to go tell 20, and they only know that side of the story.
Yeah, that's
And
the problem. with
that's the
this
problem.
business.
Yeah.
The ones in the big mouth are usually the ones that.
Yep. And if it's a cash deal, we get a lot of projects now where I don't know where all these folks get all this cash from, but they got cash. Blows my mind. Like, I remember my first deal was a cash. I was like, I want to do a cash deal. Like when I say cash, not check, straight cash, bands of cash. Yeah.
Can you bring that in quarters for me, actually?
I remember my first job like that, and I remember like, man, this is great. They brought me about, I think it was it was about 80 grand in cash, and I had it in my center console. Yeah, and I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, man, this is cool. But about after the second or third time of them bringing me about 80 to 100 grand at a time, and I remember like, going home with the money, and Diane, my wife was like, what are we going to do with this money? I'm like, wait a minute. I guess we'll just go put it on. Like, well, why? I could have just got a check. Like if I'm gonna just go put it back in the bank anyway. So it just made me start going down these different paths and like, no, this is becoming more of a headache than what it was really worth. And then I learned the valuable lesson: cash deals are the worst deals. They offer you the least amount of protection, and that's the way I explain it. So we still do them, but I learned how to do cash deals. And so if you want to do cash and we're doing $1 million job, I'm going to say, okay, Ruben, number one, show me the money. Like, do you have it? Number two, we're going to need to put that money in a joint account where once we sign an agreement, you can't take the money out without my approval. I can't take the money out without your approval. And then I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. I go against the grain in this, and the industry norm is you never do this. However, if we do it, here's the way it's going to have to work. I want 30% up front. If it's $1 million, I need $300,000 of it up front. That's the first red flag. Most people's not going to do that. And we do 30%, and I let them know by the time I get to the dried-in stage of the project, meaning right before sheetrock goes in, I will be paid in full up front. And of course, that prompts all the normal questions. Well, wait a minute, that's still da-da-da. How do I know? I'm like, here's 4 other people that I did the same deal for. I've been in business 21 years. Go look up general contractors in this area. We're the highest rated, we're the most reviewed. And I've done deals where I didn't do this, and guess what? The only deal that I didn't finish, most people, which jobs have you not completed? Have you ever walked off a job? Only one. And I was forced off of it because the owners showed me the money up front, but unfortunately I didn't do a joint account. And they were living off of it, going on Carnival cruises and vacations while we were building and this and that, and then got to the dried-in stage. All the exterior's done. They got to the point where they could do it themselves, worst case scenario. Cabinets are hung, they can do the painting, they could put up the trim, and guess how I had my draw schedule set up? My money was on the back end, and I was taking 10% draws here and there, and I was going to collect my money and everything on the back end. Well, they called me up, Ralph, we got to talk. We're going to have to pump the brakes on the project. We don't have the money to finish out the job to pay you, but we'll work it out. I mean, I'll pay you a little bit here and there, and guess what kind of predicament that put me in with my subs and vendors? Because somebody asked me earlier, what about you? I got relationships with all of them, and I knew that I got to keep my relationships whole with these people. Long story short, I ended up having to pay it. So I got, we got in a bind real quick, but I kept our relationships with our subs and learned a valuable lesson. So it's the only way I'll do the deals like that now. And the last 3 or 4 deals we've done have been cash deals. So the ones I'm taking on are cash deals. That follows this process. Because think about it, if they've got the cash and they're, if it makes sense, they typically will be in line with everything else. And it's worked out great. No problems, literally doing the impossible, but it's only a certain persona or avatar that will fit that requirement. Also,
I would very much appreciate all these processes and knowing that you've done it and all that. We got about 7 minutes. Is there anything else that you want to
I just ask, for questions for you, like whatever questions you guys have. I know I've got some things like, for me, I started kind of talking about when I'm a builder working with a real estate agent, some of the things that I like and maybe some of the things that I don't like, because I think that'd be helpful, knowing what does that relationship look like between a builder and a realtor? What is the pet peeves? And I was telling you one of mine before is just mainly like, work with a builder that knows their stuff and trust, so you don't have to plant those seeds of doubt in the customer's mind. Some people say, well, hey, I got to justify, I'm protecting them. I don't know, I challenge that. Why would you need to work with a client that you need to protect from the builder? But I get it, you know what I mean? So from my personal standpoint, that's really my biggest thing. And then I'd like to ask you guys, what do you dislike about builders?
Well, I got a question about the software thing. So you use that for all the projects, right? So your project going on, it would be tracked through here, you can see where everything is.
So this is at an MVP level, minimal viable product.
Yeah.
And we're testing it out internally. So we have a task. This is filling out permits, right?
Yeah.
So the goal with this is, say if Ruben's he's an intern, he's wanting to learn. My goal with this software is to help solve the challenge with the trades. Take hungry people who are eager, who will do the work, they just don't know what to do. Is for me to go in, my team, video team, we're taking the builds that we do take on. You ask me, are you going to continue to build? Yes, if nothing else, my goal is to get to a point with our social media presence, our online presence, to where we're able to build houses just for the content. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And just build, I don't even need to make money off of it. DeWalt's paying us, all these brands are paying us, plus we got Contractor Buddy, we're building out these templates to where if you're starting in real estate, you just got licensed, you want to become a builder, you sign up for Contractor Buddy, and literally every step of the process has an explainer video, like a mentor would explain to you, well, hey, the building permit process, here's the overview, here's where everybody goes wrong. Everything's about relationships, everything's about building rapport. How do you build a great relationship with your inspector, right? When do you think that happens? It ain't on the job site. It's before you even meet them. When you go pull that building permit, you make sure that you go when your inspector is going to be there. Get there at 6:30, get there at 7. You go shake that person's hand, introduce yourself. I'm Raphael with Southeast, and I hear that you're going to be my building inspector over at 130 North Elmwood Street, and I want to be one of your best builders. Do you mind sharing with me real quick, what are the top things you see that frustrates you when working with other builders? What else? They're calling in, they're not ready for the building inspections, calling in out of sequence, showing up unprepared, or every time when they do their final, they don't have a ladder there for me in the attic access and we got to reschedule. Great. What else could I do, make sure that I do that when you come to our job site, we're the best builders that you come in and inspect in behind? Awesome. Great. Well, hey, I'm going to make sure we do these 5 things. You're going to see me on the job site, and I look forward to working with you. And so we're actually making videos teaching these types of stuff on the overview. See where it says training? So that would be a video like he's recording. We might even would use that one. And I'm telling you what to do, that person what to do at the beginning of every step as an overview. And then when you see execution, now is when you go in and you can have a whole checklist of items in sequential order. This can have an unlimited amount of subtasks. So you may have this whole process, but now we're going to break it down. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and then here's the sub-steps. And each one of them will have the ability to have a quick 1-minute, 2-minute video explainer coaching you, guiding you, walking you through just that particular step in pulling a building permit. What I just explained to you, building rapport with your building inspector. Well, that would be a checklist. Now, here's where the magic happens. Imagine having that whole process laid out like that. Every step of the way, where you're getting the benefits of being mentored by a builder with 20 years of experience through every step of the way. But the bottleneck is, if I'm doing it in person, I can only do it one at a time. And it's going to take me a year to do that. And then you're going to have to go through it at least 3 times before you really retain it. You can't grow or you can't scale that in a business or anything. This will be the next best thing. It'll take us a year or 2 or 3 to go through and document a whole build process. But when those explainer videos, there's tutorials are there, and the checklist is there, now we can have all of you guys sign up for an account, use that template. That's a monolithic slab type setup or a raised stem wall slab setup or a crawl space setup. And you're just going to go through literally step by step, watch the training videos, the overview videos. Then you come to your task checklist and you have videos that's going to walk you through each one of those. It'll automatically transcribe and be video in English and in Spanish, so this will work for the sub-trades as well. The sub-trades going to follow this also with their list. Remember I said nobody walks on a job site with the checklist. Well, we're doing that for the trades too. So if you're the super, you're going out there inspecting your job for the electrical, you would just actually add in that electrician's list that you know we're going to fail on, and I'm going to tell you what to look for. And then when you mark this complete, right? Okay, yep, we went to the health department, went and listened to the videos. Now when you go to verification, you're going to see that same, it only translates over to verification if you've marked it complete. Now that you've marked it complete, remember I said how we document everything. Everything is recorded. You see this icon, it says it's red. On a mobile device, you would record a video showing or taking a photograph of that perk test, of that health department permit that was issued. And if you did that, I know you've learned it. But here's the beauty, I didn't have to hold your hand through it now. You imagine hiring this way if you're trying to grow a team and you don't sit down with everybody, you give them a login, say here's a task I want you to see if you can go execute on it. So this software is going to not only change the way that we do our business and how we grow and scale teams, it'll help us identify who the A players are. So we're not having to hire people and find out they're a C player or B player or whatnot. You're able to determine that quicker and faster. Or if you've got a team, this will help you get your B and C players up to an A player, because it's literally allowing you to grow, scale, and replicate everything that you do the best with other people. And then they record this video or this document that they've done it, and then once they do, the admin, the project manager, or who's ever running the job, has to come in and either approve or disapprove it. The subcontractors then, when they go through here, they will, see where it says assign? You can invite your subcontractors, your vendors, your employees, and I'm going to assign this to Ruben. He's the plumber, right? And this is his plumbing checklist. He won't have access to this admin system. He's just going to get a link. We solved the problem with the trades. Most trades folks aren't techie folks. So they just get a link. And when they get a link, they don't have to log into anything. They will see, I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. So here's our team.
Would you do the same thing for like real estate agents that you work with?
Or the client?
Or the clients,
So
yeah.
you could send them, they could just.
Yeah, you just control what you're wanting them to see there. Like if you have a client, you see where it says copy unique link, you would only assign them certain tasks. Like you might need them to give feedback on a certain item. You don't want them to know what all's going on.
Yeah.
You go to the job site, hey guys, we got this tray ceiling here. Do you want this beams going this way like we talked about? Because I do remember you said you maybe want to reverse them. Which way do you want it? And then you keep a running to-do list or questions for your client. And now you copy this unique link and you send them, text them, email them, ever how you would do it, their unique link, and they don't have to log into anything. Whatever project you've assigned them to, they click on that, and they will see all the things that you've assigned them or questions. And then you see some of them are just like to-do lists, right? But also, now this is the case where we were remodeling our office here, right? So one of the guys that were here, I was using this as a test or as a demo, and I created my list here. He could just click on this and watch it and see exactly what I'm needing him to do.
See, you've got 14 foot 10, so we need two 16-foot sheet.
That was on the baseboard. We were replacing baseboards, right? So he clicks on it. You see he didn't have to log in anything, remember a password, reset an email. He literally clicked, look at his to-do list, watch the video. He knows exactly what I need. He clicks in here now, and then if I had some other task that he needed to do, there is this other task, replace baseboard on downstairs wall. Here's a reference image of the baseboard that I want. Here's the reference measurement, and then we complete it, and then he uploads his video proof when he replaced it, blah, blah, blah. And we can now chat here. And in the future, when we build this out, probably in the next version, we're going to have it to where if they've got a checklist, here's our scope of work, they do their scope of work, they send a video proof, we view it, we make sure that it's on point, because here's the thing that I've learned using messenger apps and stuff like that. I've piecemealed, I'm doing all this together, but I'm piecemealing it, so that way if you're my client, one of the things that people love about us is that Ralph seems like he's always in the know on everything he's doing. How in the world does he know what's going on in the government jobs, on the homes, and he's like he's in all these different places. Well, this is the secret. Because I'm making sure my team send video proof. So when you ask me, well, Ralph, what happened to my pop filler? Yes, ma'am, it's installed, and we did go with the gold finish. It was the Delta gold finish. It was installed. We've already tested it. Runs perfectly fine. Matter of fact, I'll send you over a video of what that looked like. And then I'm coming here, and I'm finding my video, and I'm forwarding it over to them. And then we're commenting here, and then when Ruben's finished with his rough ends or plumbing, he can come right here and attach his invoice. And everything stays at the task level. So 2 years from now, when the clients are calling me up and they're asking me something related to that pop filler in the rough end stages or whatnot, I can go right back to it at the exact spot and find it. And then if the client wants proof, another way I've designed our business is where if I ever go to litigation, I'm going to win, hands down. Because not only do we have a signed contract, everything's recorded, everything's documented, and the goal and the vision of having this done this way is where if we're ever having to stand in front of a judge and defend ourselves and our company, and he sees this, they're just going to be like, wow. Like like everything that it's documented right there. Here's your make, here's your model, here's them unboxing it, here's them installing it per the plan. Ma'am, what are we really here for? And I've known from the beginning that's what crushes businesses. Because remember in the beginning I said, you know, us builders, we face that demise. But the other thing, the more successful you come, and if you do get successful, that's what's coming for you next, is the litigation, the lawsuits, and they're hoping, and they look at us, most people look at, when I say us, I mean contractors, they're not that smart. They're not buttoned up like that. They know how to build, but, you know what I mean, they're not good at communication, they're not good at documentation, and, you know, and unfortunately, a lot of times, that's right. And we will just, okay, we don't want to go to court. We don't want to, you know, have those issues. So the software was meant to solve pretty much all of those problems. And then if you wanted to do a report as a client, well, send me proof. I'm not, when did it actually get done? All right, ma'am, let me scroll down here, and there's an option on the back end where it says send client a report. And I can go and I can actually put a checkbox between which task I want to include in a report, and then email it over to the client with the video proof, the date it was done, the before, the during, and the after. And you see here, see this cost impact or lessons learned? That's something we added in because as you're training your team, Ruben, you know this, and just training folks like, right? You've learned a lesson, but if you're deploying people, and especially in this industry where you're building homes or commercial buildings or whatnot, you got 10 people here, they're going through a process, they're going to likely make the same mistake you made when you was learning. But you didn't get a chance to tell them all those mistakes, and you got them going through a whole build process. If that one mistake in that one task cost you $500 on the rough end valve, and you're now deploying 10 people on 10 different projects, they're most likely going to make that same mistake, but now how much is that costing you? Right? So the idea is once you document this, you see that green $sign icon? That's going to train the people when you go do that task. Whoa, let me stop. Better pay really close attention to this one because he put a $sign associated with that. And my employment agreement states that anytime I'm on assigned to a task that has a $sign attached to it with video explainers telling me exactly what to do and how to do it every step of the way, if I don't do it that way, it's agreement that that's coming, I'm having to pay for that. And now I don't have to argue with folks. I wouldn't have to argue with anybody in here. You learned that onboarding, you got an agreement in place, it's signed. But now how much did my bottom line increase when I'm trying to do 10 projects and I'm hiring new people?
Yeah,
I'm not making the same mistakes.
Years and years and years.
Yeah.
I know we're a little over time. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap it up and take a picture outside? Because I know that you have a lot of information and that we can stay around for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
Yep.
But any burning questions before we head out? And if not, what did you hear here today that you didn't know before? Or that you liked that you saw?
I want to commend you for, because I've dealt with builders, and didn't take it personal because then I had a client that wanted that same builder, and I'm like, oh, here I go.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with myself, like, what is the lesson I need to get out of this? Because I don't want to bring that experience I had previously with another client into that. I commend you for doing all this checklist, this communication, because there are some out there that the ball has been dropped.
Yeah.
And my client don't get to see the builder, they
Right.
see me.
Yeah.
I take that heat.
Yep.
And,
Yep, that's the way it works for us too.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wanna go to sleep. I wanna
Yeah.
go home and enjoy.
You see, and it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that way. But the problem is that you know, this is just on a personal level. I think a lot of our problems are, and I tell this to my team, and I'm transparent. Our problem is we're doing it for one thing only. We're doing it for the wrong thing because we need the money. If people did what they did because they liked it or they loved it, the problem is we became adults, we got responsibilities, we got bills, and we had to go make money. And everybody's out here doing stuff that they don't like doing for the sake of making a dollar, for paying a bill, and it shows in what we do. And I'm just so thankful, like, you know, I love this. I love what we're doing, you know, and part of my story and the reason why I'm doing it it's changed my life. It's put me and my wife in a position to where if we keep at it and keep making smart decisions, it'll change my whole lineage, you know, and we've never really focused on, when I price jobs, I price them to make a profit, but we've done it because we love it. And we want people happy with us. We want to be a blessing to them. But everybody's not in a position to be able to benefit from that.
Yeah.
I wish they were. I wish we could, you know, but some people have to go through bad before they know what good looks like.
Yeah. And you can see it, I mean, clearly, right? Get a few more and then we'll wrap it up.
How long until you think you're gonna have this rolled out?
Probably 3 to 6. I mean, right now we have it. I don't have it to where I can just send people to it because I've put some stuff and fillers out online. This is what I'm going to use to do the coaching. I'm going to do some coaching, and for other people that's wanting to learn the business. I've actually got about 15 or 20 people that's ready to go. The difference is I can't just send them to that site and then log in and put in a credit card. I'd have to do it manually. So I've got the developers over the course of the next month to get that part to where I don't have to do that manually. I can just say, well, hey, if you want to sign up, you can go to contractorbuddy.io and sign up, and then you know you can be a founding member as we're building out our processes. You can give us feedback and input, or if you've got a process that you're wanting to do. And the good thing about this, the software is called Contractor Buddy, but it's for any business. Every business has a SOP. It ain't just I'm just using it to solve my problem, but once it does what I have envisioned, you could do it in a mortgage business. You could do it in a real estate business. Everything has a process that needs to be repeated, that you got to train people on, that you got to set expectations up front, you got to document it, you want to protect your downside, protect your margins, and keep people happy so when you hold them accountable, hopefully if you've got the right type of person, they thank you instead of wanting to be like, well, you know, no, I didn't do that. Do this right there. Come on now.
Say that 'cause I was just thinking about like the amount of emails and stuff I get that I can't even get to, text messages that I can't remember and everything. Like I was talking to my wife, it's like, well, if you start making to that point, like she goes, I would help you out with this, but I don't know anything about how to categorize it in real estate and all that stuff. And it's like something like this.
Yeah. You would just
give her
document.
task, that link, then you verify it.
Yeah, and you just tell them, hey, this is what I want to do. This is how I need you to do it. And you know, I guess for better words, trust but verify. And plus, you make it to where people want to help, but if they don't know what to do, there's all these other things that come. Well, I don't know what to do. I don't want to make a mistake. Even like with me training teams here, and you know, we don't have the software to where I'm getting the full benefit from it yet because we're still kind of building it. But that is the challenge, you know, we get in phone calls and trying to train people, you know, on handling the phone calls and all that. People don't want to make a mistake. And some of us, all of us here are entrepreneurs. I mean, if you're a real estate agent, you're an entrepreneur. We have risk tolerance. We got a high risk tolerance. We don't get paid till the end or whatnot. Most people can't do that. And so, well, how do you do that? You got to bridge the gap. You got to put that system in place to where it's documented and they feel comfortable with it. And you know, I haven't found a software that does that. So I'm like, let's create it.
Sick. I think a lot of people are very, very, very,
I'm
very
excited to